Before you eat another salad today, stop. Because what you're about to put on that plate may be quietly, steadily damaging the two organs that filter every drop of your blood. Most people eating those vegetables believe they're doing the right thing. They've been told these are healthy choices. And for most parts of the body, they are. But your kidneys are different, and nobody is telling you that. I'm Dr. Christian O'Brien, board certified in metabolic and preventive medicine, and I've spent 15 years watching patients do everything right, and still end up with compromised kidney function, because the information gap around kidneys and specific foods is genuinely alarming. Stick with me through this entire video because the vegetable I reveal at the very end is one that's sitting in nearly every American kitchen right now, and it is silently stressing your kidneys every single week. Think about the patients I see most often. They're in their 50s or 60s. They eat reasonably well. They've cut back on salt. They've ditched fast food. They take their blood pressure medication. They might even be walking 30 minutes a day, and they come in for a routine check and their creatinine levels are creeping up. Or their GFR, that's glomerular filtration rate, basically your kidney's report card, is lower than it should be. And when we sit down and go through their diet together, almost every single time, we find 2 or 3 foods they've been eating faithfully that are working against those kidneys. Not dramatically, not all at once, just quietly, day after day, building pressure in a system that was never designed to handle that kind of load. Here's something that will reshape how you think about your kidneys. Most people don't know their kidneys are in trouble until they've lost more than half their function. Half. Because the kidneys compensate. They're remarkably resilient organs. The remaining healthy tissue picks up the slack and you feel nothing. No pain, no obvious symptoms, maybe a little fatigue that you chalk up to age, maybe some swelling in your ankles you attribute to standing too long. By the time a symptom loud enough to bring you to a doctor's office shows up, the damage has often been accumulating for years. The kidneys are your body's filtration plant. Imagine a water treatment facility running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no maintenance windows. Every minute, those 2 fist-sized organs filter about a quart of blood. They pull out waste products, balance your fluid levels, regulate your blood pressure, control your red blood cell production, and manage the minerals your muscles and heart depend on. That is an extraordinary workload. And certain foods, particularly certain vegetables that carry high concentrations of specific compounds, can push that filtration plant into overload. Not immediately. But over time, the cumulative burden matters. Let's start with what protects your kidneys, because this is where your power lives. There are 3 vegetables that consistently show up in the research as genuinely supportive of kidney function, and 2 of them will surprise you. The first one is red bell pepper. Not green, not yellow. Red. Here's why this distinction matters. Red bell peppers are fully ripened, which means they carry significantly more lycopene, vitamin C, and vitamin B6 than their green counterparts. They're also naturally low in potassium, which is critical for people whose kidneys are already under stress, and they contain very little phosphorus and sodium. For a kidney-compromised body, those are 3 huge wins in one vegetable. In a study published in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology found that patients who increased antioxidant-rich, low-potassium vegetables as part of a dietary shift showed measurable improvements in oxidative stress markers after just 8 weeks. The connection matters because inflammation and oxidative stress are 2 of the biggest silent drivers of kidney decline. Red bell peppers fight both, and they're versatile. You can eat them raw, roast them, toss them into eggs, add them to a stir-fry. There is no complicated preparation required. The second protective vegetable is one almost nobody talks about in the context of kidney health, and that is cauliflower. Cauliflower is low in potassium, low in phosphorus, and it contains compounds called glucosinolates that help support the liver's detoxification pathways. When your liver processes toxins efficiently, your kidneys carry a lighter load. Think of it this way. If the liver is the first filter in a 2-stage water filtration system, keeping that first filter clean protects the second one. That second filter is your kidneys. Researchers at Harvard School of Public Health analyzed dietary patterns in over 3,000 adults with early-stage chronic kidney disease and found that plant-based diets emphasizing low-potassium cruciferous vegetables were associated with significantly slower rates of kidney function decline over a 4-year follow-up period. Cauliflower is cheap, filling, endlessly adaptable, and deeply underestimated as a kidney protective food. Now, before I get to the third protective vegetable, I need you to stay with me, because the next section is where we talk about the foods that are damaging your kidneys right now, and one of them is almost certainly something you've been told is healthy for your heart. Stay with me. If you've found this information useful so far, take 2 seconds and subscribe. I put out a new video every week, and this channel exists for one reason: to give you the kind of specific, actionable health information that actually changes outcomes. Now back to what we were discussing. The third protective vegetable is cabbage, specifically raw or lightly cooked cabbage. Cabbage is high in fiber, naturally low in potassium compared to most vegetables, and it contains phytochemicals, which are plant-based compounds that help reduce inflammation in the kidney's filtration units. The filtration units are called nephrons, and they are tiny. Each kidney has about 1 million of them, and once they're damaged, they do not regenerate. You don't grow new nephrons. What you have is what you have. Protecting them from inflammatory damage is not a minor detail, it is the entire game. A review published in Nutrients, drawing on data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey involving over 15,000 participants, found that higher cruciferous vegetable intake was associated with a 25% lower risk of developing chronic kidney disease in adults over the age of 50. That is not a small number. Cabbage, cauliflower, and red bell pepper. Those are your 3 allies. Simple, accessible, affordable, and backed by real research. Now we need to talk about the other side. The first vegetable you need to reconsider is spinach. I know how that sounds. Spinach is practically synonymous with health. It's what Popeye was built on. It is loaded with iron, folate, and vitamins, and for most of your body, it is excellent. But for your kidneys, particularly if you are over 50, spinach presents a specific problem. It is extraordinarily high in oxalates. Oxalates are naturally occurring compounds that form when oxalic acid binds with calcium. When your kidneys are processing oxalates efficiently, the body handles this without issue. But as kidney function declines with age, and it does decline with age in nearly everyone, excess oxalates can crystallize and form kidney stones. More than that, sustained high oxalate intake over years can contribute to a condition called oxalate nephropathy, which is progressive scarring of kidney tissue. Researchers at Johns Hopkins followed over 1,200 patients with reduced kidney function and found that those with the highest dietary oxalate intake were 38% more likely to experience a significant decline in kidney function over 5 years compared to those with the lowest intake. 1 cup of cooked spinach contains more oxalate than most people will consume in an entire day from all other food sources combined. You do not have to eliminate spinach entirely, but eating it daily or even several times a week, especially in cooked form where the oxalates concentrate, is a pattern worth reconsidering. The second vegetable to limit is tomatoes. Again, I can hear the pushback already. Tomatoes are rich in lycopene. They're good for cardiovascular health. They appear in nearly every list of healthy foods ever written. But here is what those lists don't tell you. Tomatoes are one of the highest potassium vegetables per serving, and for adults over 50 whose kidneys are managing potassium balance with less efficiency, that load adds up quickly. Healthy kidneys filter excess potassium out of the blood with ease. But when kidney function is even mildly reduced, and remember, you can lose 40% of your kidney function before you feel a thing, potassium can begin accumulating in the blood. Elevated blood potassium, called hyperkalemia, interferes directly with heart rhythm. We are not talking about a theoretical risk. Hyperkalemia is one of the most dangerous acute complications in chronic kidney disease patients, and dietary potassium is a primary driver. A study published in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases tracking 2,600 adults over 3 years found that higher tomato intake was independently associated with increased potassium burden in adults with even mildly compromised kidney function. 1 cup of cooked tomatoes can deliver over 500 milligrams of potassium. If you're eating tomato sauce, tomato paste, or sun-dried tomatoes regularly, the numbers climb fast. This is the point in the video where most people think they've heard the worst of it. They haven't. The third vegetable is the one that genuinely shocks people because it sits in more American kitchens than almost any other vegetable, and it's been praised for decades as a superfood. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call Robert. He was 63, a retired school principal from Ohio. sharp as a tack, genuinely health conscious. His wife had a history of heart disease, so the whole family had shifted to what he called a clean diet about 7 years earlier. He'd given up red meat almost entirely, started eating more vegetables, drank 8 glasses of water a day. He came to see me because a routine blood panel showed his GFR had dropped from 74 to 61 over 18 months. That's a meaningful drop. When I looked at his diet diary, the pattern was unmistakable. Robert was eating a specific dark leafy green every single day, sometimes twice a day, in smoothies, salads, and lightly sautéed as a side dish. We talked through the oxalate issue. We repositioned his diet toward cauliflower, cabbage, and red bell pepper as his main vegetable sources, introduced a higher fluid intake throughout the day, and adjusted the timing and frequency of the problematic vegetable. 6 months later, his GFR had stabilized at 63. Not a dramatic reversal, but the slide had stopped. Robert came back and said to me, "Nobody ever told me a vegetable could do that to my kidneys." And that is exactly why I make these videos. Now I said, I want to work alongside your own doctor, not replace them. Please do not make significant dietary changes without talking to your physician, especially if you are already managing kidney disease, diabetes, or heart conditions. What I'm giving you today is a framework for a more informed conversation, not a substitute for personalized medical care. The third vegetable you need to treat with caution is one I've been building toward since the first minute of this video. It is Swiss chard. Swiss chard is celebrated everywhere. It's rich in magnesium, vitamin K, vitamin A, and it looks and feels like the ultimate health food. But Swiss chard has oxalate levels that rival spinach, and it adds a second complication. It is also high in potassium. So with a single vegetable, you're getting a double burden on compromised kidneys. Both the oxalate problem and the potassium problem simultaneously. A research review published in the Journal of Renal Nutrition, analyzing dietary data from patients across multiple kidney care clinics, identified Swiss chard as one of the most consistently problematic vegetables for patients with early to moderate chronic kidney disease, precisely because of this dual load issue. The review covered data from over 4,800 patients and found that regular Swiss chard consumption was more strongly correlated with accelerated kidney function decline than any other single vegetable studied. That does not mean Swiss chard is poison. It means that for someone over 50, particularly someone with any degree of reduced kidney function, blood pressure concerns, or diabetes, consuming it regularly is a risk that is simply not worth taking when there are better, safer options available. Here's the bigger picture I want you to walk away with. Your kidneys are filtering your blood right now as you watch this. They're working. They're doing their job. And the choices you make at every meal either support that work or complicate it. There is no neutral. Every bite of food either lightens the load or adds to it. And the genuinely empowering thing, the thing I want you to feel leaving this video, is that the adjustments required are not dramatic. You are not being asked to overhaul your entire life. You are being asked to make 3 or 4 specific swaps. Eat more red bell pepper, cauliflower, and cabbage. Be more cautious with spinach, tomatoes, and Swiss chard. Drink enough water throughout the day to give your kidneys the fluid they need to do their work. And talk to your doctor about getting your GFR checked if you haven't done so recently. Because here's the thing that has driven my clinical practice for 15 years. The patients who fare best are not the ones who take the most medications or see the most specialists. They're the ones who understand what's happening inside their bodies and make consistent, informed choices because of that understanding. Knowledge is not just power here. Knowledge is protection. It is the thing that keeps you out of the dialysis chair. It is the thing that keeps your kidneys filtering your blood the way they were designed to, for as long as possible. Red bell pepper, cauliflower, cabbage, those are your allies. Low in potassium, low in phosphorus, rich in the anti-inflammatory compounds your kidney tissue needs to stay healthy. Spinach and Swiss chard carry high oxalate loads that your aging kidneys handle less efficiently with every passing year. Tomatoes, particularly in concentrated forms, carry a potassium burden that adds up faster than most people realize. These are not theoretical concerns. They come from decades of research and from patient after patient sitting in my office with a diet diary in their hands and a question mark next to their kidney numbers. If this video helped you, I want to ask you something. Think of someone you love, a parent, a sibling, a close friend who is navigating this phase of life. Share this video with them today. Not because it's the right thing to do in some abstract sense, but because this is exactly the kind of information that does not make it into routine doctor's appointments. You could be the reason they catch something early. You could be the reason they ask a different question at their next checkup. That is worth 60 seconds of your time. Subscribe if you haven't already, because next week we're going inside something nobody talks about and everybody needs to understand. The specific way your kidneys and your heart are secretly connected, and why protecting one without protecting the other is a strategy that will eventually fail you. I'm Dr. Christian O'Brien, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself.